Okay, welcome everybody in to this live stream presentation. I mean, this is an extravaganza, I guess. I mean, we've got George or Buddy K from Forever Moments, and we've got Alex, founder of YearOne. Guys, thanks for taking the time out of your day to join me for this conversation about building the future on LUKSO. One moment, one protocol at a time. You guys like that name? That title?
Good to be here.
Yeah, thanks for having us on.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited to actually have a conversation with both of you today. We've both met. I guess I'd say I've talked to both of you independently at different times, but never had a conversation where we could just like all sit down and chat. I think this is interesting. Buddy, you ever met Alex?
No, first time. Good to meet you, my man.
Yeah, good to meet you, sir. And we've spoken with Craig once before live. So yeah, it's nice to be back.
Yeah, nice. I'm looking forward to getting into it.
Yes, fantastic. All right, so let's do the obligatory kind of just level set. I'm going to move from me on the left all the way to Buddy on the right. We'll start with you, Alex. Just kind of like give a quick introduction, TLDR, who you are, what you're cooking, and how it kind of relates to LUKSO.
Sounds good. Yeah. So YearOne is made up of 3 individuals, actually. It's myself, Alex, Pablo, and Hussein. We started cooking together on the blockchain about 2.5 years ago. And really, we just wanted to explore any opportunities, kind of like see how we could get our feet wet. And actually, one of the first things we did was the LUKSO hackathon, the LUKSO Biddle Up 2 on, man, what's the platform? Biddlebox, right? I think it's Biddlebox, right? Yeah. And that was our intro to building on LUKSO. Up until then, I heard a lot of things about LUKSO. I didn't really know what to think. And then once I got deeper into the standards, I think really fell in love with the possibilities. And that's kind of like what's kept us around since. So since then, we've built a bunch of smaller projects in the LUKSO ecosystem. So we did the Universal Grave for the hackathon, which is a spam management system for digital assets. Then we did Burn Pix Archives, which was like an NFT collection built on top of the legendary Burn Pix. Then after that, we kind of looked into what it would take to build more modular automation kind of assistance on top of our experience from the Universal Grave. And that's what got us into the Universal Assistant protocol. We've been pretty much working on that since. There was a side quest of building hash lists because that was a necessary component for what we're doing. And we're still at it, making tweaks to the protocol, getting ready for kind of this latest version that we think will meets our threshold for where we want to be. And amongst the 3 of us, we have 30 plus years of experience building in tech, from dev to design to product. So that's YearOne.
Awesome. Thanks for the TLDR. I like across the 3 of us, we have 30 years experience. That's 28 with one person. And one of us, I'm joking. I just think that's a funny way to say it. All right. Thanks. All right. So Lex, that is a good level set for us. Now I want to hear from Buddy so we can kind of level set, what Buddy's background is, what he's working on, what he's cooking.
Yeah, sure. So in my day job, I'm a product design lead for a fairly big kind of job tech company. But prior to that, I spent the best part of a decade setting up tech businesses, one in the recruitment space, like a SaaS product, and then followed on with like an e-commerce tool in the CBD space, actually. And that business was acquired, and around that stage, I got into the world of blockchain, into the world of crypto, and was really excited about the products that could be built here. And then at some point came across LUKSO when the price was way higher than it is now. And I've been really loving the project and product since then. So for quite a few years now, following the progress and watching things happen. And then when the grants round came about just over a year ago, it kind of kicked me into action of wanting to actually build something and contribute to the ecosystem as well. I'd always had lots of ideas for what could have been built, but as a kind of builder myself, I just wanted to get involved and do stuff. That was more difficult not being a technical guy, right? I'm a product guy, product design, but I know having worked very closely with engineers, I kind of know what it takes to build a product, and spent, I'd say, 6 months kind of frustratingly trying to get my ideas across, working with a developer, but then decided actually the tools are out there now, that I can jump in and really supercharge my learning, and was able to pick up the LSPs and understand how it all fits together, and then I guess Forever Moments is born from there. So yeah, that brings us to now. I've just launched Forever Moments on LUKSO 2 weeks ago. I think we went live, and yeah, super exciting to be just having a product out there in the live ecosystem with people trying it and using it and refining it. And yeah, at the moment it's very much in the beta stage, very much early days, but I'm excited about what can be built.
Yeah, awesome. Love to hear it. And you know, we've chatted before on stream. You know what I think about Moments. I think it's really cool. And you know, Lex, I was like one of the earliest adopters of Universal Grave because that's one of YearOne's products. That's like the flagship product. Well, I'll say the earliest product, maybe not the flagship. That's maybe not the way to state it. But I was fascinated with that one when it came out because it was the first time someone had taken one of the LSPs, as Fabian says, his first LSP, LSP1, and really put it into practice in the sense that someone could utilize it to solve a problem that we face across the entire industry, which was just like spam to our blockchain accounts. And I love it, although I'm foiled by the Grave constantly. You know, like I mint an asset and I'm like, where did it go? Oh yeah, it's in the Grave. You know, this is the 50th time that I've done this. I should pay attention now. I know the Grave really isn't maybe the topic of the conversation today, but I did want to say this because I think both of you as developers or product builders, right, have come into this ecosystem and embraced effectively new tech, right? And what I want to really kind of pick at today in our conversation is like, what was your experience in adopting this new tech? What kind of feedback do you have for maybe the builders of the tech, but also what kind of wisdom do you have to pass along to people who might be just starting to discover this ecosystem? And like, what is the value proposition? Like, why should they invest their time here? So that's kind of like an overarching goal for this conversation. Now, I feel like conversations are really stale if I just moderate them and I kick them back and forth. I'm like, Lex, what do you think? Okay, what do you think? So instead of going that route, like feel free to have an open stage and just let the conversation develop, right? If you want to interject, you don't have to wait. Just jump right in, okay? So I'll get it started by passing the torch along right away first. And I'll kick it over to you, Alex. Like you came in build up number 2, which is, you know, in the past now. I've asked you this probably in a different format, but in a very direct line of questioning now, like what was the unique value proposition that you discovered once you started looking into the technology here? Like, why didn't you just drop it right away? Why did you continue going?
Yeah, so I think the first thing that stood out when starting to learn about the standards was reactivity through LSP1. Like you can react to things that are happening to your account in an automated way without having to touch a contract. And the other thing was interconnectedness. All these standards, they touch on so many different things, yet they share core functionality and components that make them that are really thought out. Like it's clear that when they were built, there was a lot of thinking that went into them, and not just thinking, but lessons learned from ERC20s, or rather ERCs on Ethereum. So just when it hit me that, like, wow, you could actually deal with the spam problem through this reactivity aspect. Like if you get trash sent to your account, you have no choice but to accept it in all other Ethereum ecosystems. And that is kind of strange, right? It's like you can get rid of junk mail in your mailbox. You can kind of like block things from even entering your mailbox, and when it comes to email and when it comes to physical spaces. But then here suddenly you kind of like, it feels like there's a big intrusion into your space, and there's nothing you can do about it. And LUKSO was clear, solved it. Or you could use the technology LUKSO had through the LSPs to solve that. And then that's really what captured our imagination there. And then as we built the Grave, we realized that it's not just spam is just one tiny thing that you're dealing with. You could build so much more if you could build a library of components that could all work together, reacting to things. Maybe in one instance, it's fighting spam. In another instance, it's taxing someone for sending you transactions. Maybe you can make them do work for you, like refine your burnt picks, or you could decide to have a savings account for a specific token. So every time you trade it, like X% of that token goes to that account, sets it aside. So the possibilities were just kind of like limitless. Yet the current state of the LSPs for reactivity, the Universal Receiver Delegate, was such where you could only have one contract at a time doing work for you. So we decided to expand that out and make it modular and enable users to have all kinds of assistance, hopefully assistance that others built for these users. Users just engage them. So building an ecosystem around that. And I think so this is kind of like what's motivated, kept us, engaged us. And then also seeing the constant evolution on these standards, like now seeing the follower system in action, seeing all the rich metadata that you can play around with. So it's really, it feels like a really mature system. A lot of problems have been foreshadowed, or maybe kind of like studied in all the other chains, and then this is kind of like the end result that's been produced, and you can leverage it in so many different ways that, I mean, like we're just touching the surface. I think there's not even an active DeFi ecosystem yet on LUKSO, but with the things that we have, it could be new use cases that are not even possible at the moment anywhere else. Same for social, same for creators. Yeah, that's kind of it. So I feel like the initial question maybe was like, what captured you and what motivated you, right? And then was there a second part?
I don't think it was so much of a question that you had to give an explicit answer for. I think it was more of that kind of leading into trying to get you to discuss why you're here and why you continue to invest that time here. And I think you did a good job of explaining that. There's a mature thought process around how to go about solving problems that face developers, but in a decentralized way. And you mentioned the Universal Assistance Protocol, which I would love for you to talk a little bit more about. Yeah,
I think just to make a point now, I think the phrase "in a decentralized way" is really needs to be triple underlined there, because that's the thing that excites me. Because we talk about, and I heard Fabian talking about the other day, like doing completely things that can't be done, and then a lot of examples we give to the normal everyday listener are things that can be done, but they're just done in a centralized way. So it's the fact that these are being done without needing to rely on like a centralized body that's doing it for you. This can be done in a decentralized manner. That's the real brilliance here, because these aren't like sending notifications is something that's just done, like that happens, but it's just done by Facebook or by the business that is doing it. These standards enable us to build anything in a decentralized manner. So I think that brings us to par with Web 2, but decentralized. But then you've also got things that are going to come off the standards that go beyond Web 2 and give us new use cases and new things that we can build that weren't before. So yeah, I just wanted to point out that that decentralized manner is really important.
So this is actually great because, buddy, you've got forever moments, and at any time I could comment under a moment. One thing that I would love is if there was a notification that came to my extension or came to me some way that told me, hey, someone has commented under your moment. So then I can react to that comment, right? That creates a much more kind of social experience. And I'm pretty sure LSP1 is the standard that would allow for us to do it in a decentralized way. Right, Lex?
Exactly that.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Buddy, are you looking at building those types of notifications into your
yeah, 100%. 100%. I think it's absolutely critical if we want to get to the stage that we want to get to. You need these kind of table stakes features that a Web 2 app has. And we're able to do that now. So that's possible still without needing any kind of dependence on a centralized service. So that's definitely in the pipeline. There's huge things in the pipeline in my mind for forever moments. Like, this is very much the MVP beta to get it out there so people can mint a moment, so people can send some likes, make a comment, and create collections. And really, it's all about I get most excited by collections because that really showcases the power of the permission system of LUKSO, right? Because yes, you can create a collection that's just my collection, and then I add moments to that collection. I view it as like I was saying on Twitter the other day, it's like a folder on your desktop, right? A collection is a folder, and moments are files in that folder. But both of them are smart contracts and programmable and all of that jazz. But the idea that collections, you can then make them open and anyone can add moments to that collection, or you could set permissions like token gated, right? So like, or a ticketing event. So like everyone who has something, a ticket to an event, can scan a QR code or whatever, that will give them permission to add moments to that collection. So any event could have a collection of that event, and anyone who went to that event could add their pictures and photos and videos and comments about that event, and then they kind of verified that they were there. You could do that with any type of. We can now do permissions. That's the bottom line. we can now do permissions, which is incredibly powerful. Every single Web 2 app is permissions is foundational to how it works, and we can now do that in a decentralized manner. And any permutation of those permissions is quite exciting. So you can think of the different collections that you can have, where people can add moments to that collection. Yeah, it could be location. Like if you prove that you're in London, and you can add pictures of being in London. Who knows? So yeah, I'm excited about permissions. That's one thing. Notifications is another.
Yeah, no,
Probably the third as well.
yeah, no, it's cool. I mean, like there's a lot of ground to be covered just in general whenever you have a conversation relative to the value proposition that the standards kind of have and the opportunities that they open up. I think, you know, we've seen a lot of composability in other ecosystems with DeFi and some of the primitives that have come out around there. What's interesting here is I think the social composability that some of the standards unlock here, where again, two different builders working on different products, but you can see right away, or at least I can in my mind start drawing lines to connect what the team at YearOne's working on with what you're working on yourself over there at Forever Moments. And then let's insert the, you know, 100 other builders working on product. That kind of social composability with a lot of these primitives that are coming up right now using these new standards just unlock better user experience for everybody that comes afterwards. If you're the end user that's non-technical, that's just using a product, you benefit. If you're the builder, you guys are like the pioneers. You're some of the first people employing these standards in a meaningful way, right? You're really treading new ground. So the more that we're building a community of developers and builders that are working together, sharing their ideas, sharing their experiences, the faster we're all going to go in that idea that we are standing on the shoulders of the giants that come before us, which is also why this is a great opportunity to have this conversation. And it's open, it's an open-ended conversation, truthfully. So Lex, hearing Buddy talk, you know, like, what do you resonate with?
I mean, everything he said and what you highlight as in learning from each other, that's super relevant. So I'm learning from Buddy's experiments with the likes, with how he tried to get followers to the universal profile for moments.
On me, didn't they? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like we're all kind of conducting live experiments that we can learn from, and it doesn't feel like right now it's win-lose for people building. It's win-win. We're just building a network here. Everyone benefits from the network growing stronger. In terms of, I think like the composability and the decentralization is also kind of what excites me about blockchain, but I just took it for granted. For me, it's like I'm not even thinking about that aspect at this stage. It's more like, how can you rebuild things that exist using what we have, and like how can you're talking about building a community of developers. So on our end, we're trying to think through building the Universal Assistant Protocol. How can we set it up right, build the right tools or the right architecture to where it's easy for developers to jump in and build assistants of their own. Like Jordy is building, liquid staking, whatever it may be. Could be an assistant to where when you perform a universal swaps transaction, some portion of it goes and buys SLIX and deposits it somewhere into a piggy bank, right? So how can we set up this protocol in such a way to where actions that you take or that others direct at you can directly engage other parts of the ecosystem? Yeah, so it's definitely an exciting challenge, but it's also like writing an essay or creating a piece of something that you want to share with the world. You go through iterations. So Grave was iteration 0. Then we learned about problems that the Grave faced, and we're like, okay, this is crappy, we want to make it better. There's definitely ways to make it better. Or can we smash our head against the wall until we find a way to make it better, because it's not always obvious. And now we're at a stage where I'm reworking V0 of the Grave to be built on top of the Universal Assistant Protocol. So it's no longer, super specific spam management architecture. Now I'm trying to take that and build it using the generalized architecture that assistants rely upon. Because the grave is fairly complex, it might seem simple, but there's a lot going on there. In the process, I am learning what's missing in the core protocol. So then I'm going back to the core Universal Assistant protocol, modifying parts of it. Oh, then I encounter another challenge. I'm like, okay, now I need to tweak this and that and the third. So we launched the Universal Assistant protocol with a set of features that already makes it usable. You can basically build multiple assistants, engage multiple assistants, have a much richer, more reactive universal profile. And now it's the more advanced use case that I'm learning about by building on top of the protocol myself, that's opening up kind of new horizons. Like, what are maybe core configurations that all assistants could share? What are configurations that will come about more often than not and many would want to share or rely upon? How can we make the system as interconnected as possible? So it's an interesting part of the process. And I'm not sure, Buddy, maybe you've had a similar kind of iterative, like, okay, this outline is no longer valid, I need to rework a big piece here, or...
Yeah, I mean, I've been jumping into code for a long time. It's been quite a big learning curve for me, right? Because I'm not a developer by background, so it's not just been learning the standards, it's been learning Solidity, it's been learning JavaScript, it's been learning from the start, and I think to that point, things like ChatGPT or Cursor, stuff that people have now, have access to, makes that so much easier. That leap that used to be a wall that you couldn't get past is quite achievable now. So I think for anyone that would be interested to or has ideas, that the only thing stopping them is they don't have a developer, I think it's a lot more achievable now than you'd think.
So on that line, actually, Buddy, internally, Mustafa has just actually taken and created a text reference for the entire documentation, which makes it a little bit easier for something like Cursor to go in and utilize the documentation if you are approaching it from more of that AI driven development, right? I struggle to say vibe coding, right? We're just vibe talking right now. But if you're honestly, like you said, you are upskilling by taking advantage of the very powerful tooling that is out there. One of the best.
To be honest, if you asked at the start about the biggest problems that I found, that was probably one of the toughest challenges, is because LUKSO is not that well known, and certainly let's go back a year, where ChatGPT was a year ago. Like a lot of the things you were getting back, like, were Ethereum answers that they would give, and that wouldn't always be correct, and that caused a lot of problems, and that was probably the hardest battle, the hardest thing to overcome, was trying to understand the standards without it having, like, if I do something on the front end, for example, where it's just kind of visual looking, like, it has so much knowledge to work on that it can do things pretty damn well. But you start digging into how the LSPs work, which it doesn't have training data on, then it becomes difficult. That's when you really need to actually start understanding exactly what's going on.
That's what you say, go to the docs. But then you go to the docs, and are the docs rich enough? Like, again, with this being an entirely new technology suite, effectively, with new standards, like,
I would say no. Yeah. Definitely
yeah,
not.
right.
There was always times, and every single time I was like, I really should write this down so the team know that this is not good enough. But I'm so in the middle of, like, learning 7 different things at once to make a note for them of what was wrong and why I didn't quite get it. it was just always just too much, and I'd be like, I'll do that later. So to give you exact things that were wrong, I can't. But I can tell you many a time I was left wanting.
Yeah, I mean, I can say the same thing. Like, you are working through a problem, you notice something is off or missing in the docs, but you want to solve the problem. Like, for you, the motivation is like, okay, yeah, the docs is important. I know, like, definitely important, but then you forget about it because you're now you're on to another problem. Now you're worried about something else. And the docs have improved a lot, though. Like, they've been getting richer and richer. Also, the more people build, the more code examples there are on GitHub. I would say maybe, like, if somehow transparency can be improved around what the team is working on. Let's say they're tackling something on ERC 725, the package, right?
Mhm.
If I already know that they're tackling the issue I'm thinking about, it's easier for me. Or, like, I know that there's a place I can go and check, or I can easily add something. Like, I know you can report issues on GitHub, but then sometimes, like, lack of visibility into whether it's actively being worked on or not drives motivation. Like, if I see that some code base hasn't been touched in 8 months, I mean, is it worth my time to go report something, or do I focus on what I'm doing right now? Do I raise a PR, or where do I, like, it's a tough challenge, and we have already channels and they're improving, like the dev channel for on Telegram, where we can chat amongst each other. But still, I think that's just the nature of building such a massive thing openly, like coordinating all these parties or incentivizing them to contribute to the core tech itself. And totally agree with you, buddy. Like, ChatGPT, Grok, whatever you use, really good at answering things, dealing with solidity, but so dumb, so dumb with, like, the most basic of things sometimes when it comes to LSPs, that sometimes it'll give you a really good outline, but then you'll spend many hours debugging or figuring out where that error was that you're dealing with right now. So I think, like, unfortunately, at this stage, it's up to us to figure out the answers to a lot of these things. Like, you're building a new schema for metadata.
Yeah.
There's no example for what I want anywhere. I have to just go into the LSP2 docs. I have to ask Jean in the dev channel something, and other devs, and maybe eventually it clicks for me. I'm like, okay, this is what I should be doing. But it's been a lot slower than building anything else. Like, if you're just building a front end, building something with a database, Web 2, that's like 3-5 days of work with ChatGPT. Whereas in LUKSO, because it's all new, there might be a package that's broken, there might be a regression somewhere that was introduced. Something that you think, because of the new tools, might take you a few days can easily turn into 2 to 3 weeks. And it's hard to estimate how long things will take you at this stage.
That is actually a really good point. And I think that that's something that is, like, unless you're in the weeds and you're doing this work, you don't understand these friction points. You just, you overlay development timelines sometimes. I'm just thinking about a conversation I was just having in a community channel. A lot of people bring expertise from their professional lives into this domain where we are, and they want to overlay development timelines with what they know about Web 2 development, or what they know about some pre-existing experience they've had. Where here, what you're saying is, this is like a snowball going downhill. At the beginning, it's very small, and it takes time to gain the momentum and gain the mass, and that critical mass of input. And now I'm moving away from the snowball, the critical mass of people that are all working together, but building out different aspects of this ecosystem. you need that, because that's what starts the conversation. And you guys know, I just onboarded as a DevRel recently. I index highly on the relational side, right? And what that allows me to do is, because and in real time, I am learning some of this tech because it was invented by people only very recently. I also encounter those pain points, and I'm like, damn, what is going on here? And then I engage someone like John, and I ask the question, and John says, oh, it's simple. It's like 20 lines of code, or I could do that in 10 lines of code. And I look at him and I go, you realize, like, it's like magic to everybody on the outside. So sometimes you have to just take that step back and say, assume no knowledge. What are we missing that gets the developer or the aspiring developer to hello world super fast in some of these basic areas? One of those areas is, Lex, you were saying metadata, right? Like, how do we have enough clear examples of implementing the custom schemas? So as a developer, if I have an issue, I can just run across this bad boy quickly, and I can now start to build out the solution that I need relative to what I'm building, right? So, like, I hear you, and, like, believe it or not, that's what we've been talking intensely about, Mustafa and I, as DevRel, working on docs or examples. We don't need the fully fleshed out protocol, super perfect code. We've got to be able to make it so someone like Buddy or someone else who's coming in, or yourself, Lex, or myself, or I show up and I go, boy, I would really like to, I don't know, just represent profile data. That basic step. I want to build a front end, and I want to be able to represent, search, use the indexer and represent people's profile data. That I guess there are examples of that in the docs, kind of, but, like, it would be great if it was just really spelled out. I mean, just really spelled out.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things there, but it comes back to, and I guess the question for you is we had this conversation actually on one of the chats, but who is the target user for the docs? Like, who are we actually targeting for those docs? Like, I come into it from I guess a entrepreneur, dreamer, product guy, right? I'm not a dev. So for me, they weren't really targeted well at me, because there was an assumed knowledge that I didn't have. Okay, so I'm coming in and I'm going, okay, well, how do I like build this, or how do I get the profile data? And it's like, right, implement this script, and I'm like, what's a script? Where do I implement it? What do I need to do here? And that's the kind of level you're starting at. If I'm your target user, that's missing. But maybe the target user is it's not necessarily that. It could be developers that are at other protocols that are moving across and have an assumed knowledge of solidity and how blockchains work. I think we need to be clear on who we're speaking to across all of the interfaces that we've got here.
And maybe now that's customizable given the new tooling. Like, I could get my own AI agent that plugs into LUKSO's AI agent that tailors it. Like, it's just the LUKSO knowledge base, and now I'm a product guy. Give me all the prerequisites as well. Or I'm coming from building on Arbitrum, Ethereum. I already know some Solidity, know some JavaScript. This is who I am. So then maybe your docs become custom, which is, I mean, a new concept. But
that right there would be a beautiful product across any docs. I think you should launch it straight away.
Well, what you're highlighting, so there's two things we're highlighting. One, we've seen an immense change. I mean, almost seismic shift in the tooling that's available to the average human in the span of the really in LUKSO's life cycle, from ideation to today. You didn't have Grok available to you at this scale. ChatGPT didn't have the model that was capable of coding at this level. You didn't have Claude or Cursor. You didn't have windsurf or insert your favorite tool for whatever you're trying to do, you know, going back to 2018, 2019, or let's say when documentation really started getting written about this project in 21, you're writing towards the very experience, like your audience, your user base for technical documentation. You're going to assume that they have a background in development, specifically probably smart contracts, and that is the lens through which they are consuming this information. Where today, like you're saying, buddy, with the tooling that's available, anyone could stumble upon this documentation with the intent of learning or wanting to use it because they have an idea. And Lex, to your point, becomes really interesting then with like, how do we tailor what they're seeing? I think I love your product. Like Buddy said, build it. But really, I think the first step, and that was the step that Mustafa kind of took a step. It was, I think, last week. He again made an LLM.txt document, which you can find at the head of a lot of technical documentation pages out there that allows for the LLMs to use our docs a little bit better. What Fabian said was like, hey, let's make sure our standards are there because that's the gospel truth. And I totally agree. I think there's that one extra piece there that's missing if you only include the standard set. And that is, you can do a lot on LUKSO before you even write one line of Solidity, right? Just because there's so much metadata available. A lot of these metadata standards don't require you to write anything custom. You can just grab it. You can actually assign permissions or revoke permissions. Again, not writing any Solidity, just manipulating what's already available. So yeah, the standard the standards themselves, LLMs need that, but our documentation has to be able to support the implementations, at least at a base level. So people get those really. So speaking only in terms of AI, the LLMs, the AI know how to get you to the hello world, right? You don't spend all this time debugging all this crap because it's very clear how these basic implementations, these basic examples are used. Yeah. Been putting a lot of thought towards that. You guys are right.
But then there's also the challenge of, unfortunately, you're also still depending on things like the plugins for wallet connection. Like those are also dynamically changing in real time. Like you had, what was it, Web3 wallet or Web3 component, then it became re-owned, then a bunch of crap broke.
Yeah.
Then suddenly what LUKSO is doing isn't as well supported as it was. Now I think it maybe is, but there's always, it's still dynamic. So even if you fully nail this LUKSO piece of it, devs will still have challenges, but at least it won't be LUKSO. So I mean, I think like removing as many of these barriers as possible is important. Yeah, I mean, things are getting better, easier. Like we've noticed it, but if you are doing building new use cases with the newest tech on all fronts, there's going to be gaps. So want to remove as many of them that are within your control as possible.
So I guess that's where like I kind of come in my position, and then obviously like knowing you two and knowing a host of other people, you know, we've got the banner at the bottom, Hack the Grid closes on May 5th. So if you're a new developer that's trying to enter and all you have is the docs, I'm looking at it like, okay, hey, new developer, how do I get you plugged into this community of developers so you don't feel like you're exploring this territory without a map and alone? How do we plug you into the people who have come before you so you can ask the question and maybe get an answer quickly, or at least feel that you're connected to an ecosystem of support, right? That's like an active consideration right now. Because if some people like to discover everything on their own, I'm not that person. I love to ask questions. So how do we connect people together? And I think that's something that, you know, there's a lot of conversation about internally, definitely. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, both of you. Like, You know, do you have any good ideas on how we can connect and like better share ideas? Because ultimately, more community contribution, more conversation is going to yield to probably, I don't know, something. I suspect good.
Yeah, I really like the spaces that you've started hosting maybe a couple of months ago, maybe a
Yeah.
few months ago, that are dev focused and kind of like almost like a demo of at the end of every week of what's happening. As a developer, in a situation where, you know, we're facing a lot of kind of like issues with the markets in general, people using things. This is kind of exciting intellectually, stimulating. You're like, oh, what is Buddy up to? Oh, wow, building Moments. I didn't know Moments was happening. Like, I didn't know about like this whole other experiment that someone's doing, or maybe it's, you know, the roasting app in the mini grid that got demoed. So I think having more continuing with these spaces is definitely 100% the right direction for engaging devs. Also highlighting, I think highlighting specifically kind of like new use cases that have been uncovered through someone's building efforts is pretty interesting. I kind of also, in one of these spaces, I stumbled across a demo by the guys that are building ZK, being able to get ZK proof of anything from Web 2 into like Reclaim. That's right. And then to me, that's like, wow, that opens up a whole nother segment that enriches this metadata that we already have. So I think continuing to highlight these things. I don't know if, I mean, I don't know how to get devs to begin with to view one of these, but once I think you manage to do that, the likelihood of someone sticking around increases by a ton. So maybe also chopping up some of these videos with like the most interesting use cases or groundbreaking stuff, and specifically highlighting how what's happening in that conversation solves a problem that can't be solved in Arbitrum or in Polygon or whatever is the hype at the moment. Could go a long way. And then like the other efforts you have with new channels that are focused on the devs, no drama, nothing else. Conversations solely focused on the product building, the development experience, the challenges people are facing. I think that was awesome. Like when you guys did that, it was a lot more fun to stick around those channels.
Yeah, for sure. Not the when questions, but the how, right? The hows are questions we can solve. The whens are
exactly.
Super. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Buddy, you got thoughts?
Yeah, I just had was making a couple of notes here, just in terms of ideas. Like I can only talk from kind of my user perspective and the idea of coming to this as not a developer. And I do think that we tend to focus on developers because they're the ones that can do it. But with all due respect, developers aren't necessarily always the ones that lead these kind of revolutionary companies. They have a certain mindset, way of thinking. It may not be business minded. It may not be so entrepreneurial. So we limit our pool to the dreamers of the many different ideas that could be possible on LUKSO by just focusing on that. And I think there are lots of ideas people and product people and others that aren't necessarily are so technical that can now get involved. And I feel like the job of LUKSO is to make that as seamless as possible, even if it's a no code kind of thing, to really start getting the variety of products onto this platform that do showcase the innovation. We need to get that as soon as possible, I think, so that there's a bigger pool of people building. Otherwise, we're kind of relying on either visionary devs or visionary founders who have funds to pay devs. But yeah, I think they can start doing their things themselves now. And I think for anyone who's got ideas and wants to try doing something for the grants, for like the mini apps, then just dive in, like give it a go. Take some hours out, go to GitHub. GitHub's your friend. Like copy so a load of different. There's the LUKSO playground. I think there's a few examples of mini apps that I think Amir and Heisen's dropped. So there's stuff there to play around and get things working, even if it's super basic, like a to-do list mini app, or like Cursor will be able to whip that up for you as soon as you're plugged in. Tell it what color you want it, and you've got a mini app. And I just think just that exploration, that space for everyone just to come and explore needs to be the barrier to get there needs to be as small as possible.
Agreed. Like, I want people to feel, this is me speaking on behalf of me, no one else. I want people to feel the permission, like feel like they can come here and they can explore it without fear of judgment or having to build anything that's too big. Like you said, buddy, we want dreamers here. And yeah, eventually would everyone want some really insane protocol that revolutionizes the space? Yes, that would be fantastic. But that is like that's in the future. You don't get there on day one. Like you were saying, Lex, this is an iterative process where you step through, I don't know, like a lot of small wins and some small failures where you go backwards. It's like 2 steps forwards, 1 step back. And along the way, it enriches the knowledge base of the entire community. And when I say community, I'm really focused like that's kind of like the role I'm in. How do we build a community of people? I'm not asking you guys to solve that problem. That's something I'm actively thinking about working on by being relational every day. People like to be a part of something. So how do you create the feeling that they are a part of something and that they're not distally connected or at best like kind of tied to it as a developer? How do you create a space where people, if they want to become part of a group, they can feel like they're invested in that group and the group's investing back in them? Like, that's a tough nut to crack, but that's also that's the goal here. We got to create safe spaces where people can come and ask the question without fear of like, is this a dumb question? We've got to create the safe spaces where people can share work. I mean, I'm probably the poster child for being willing to look like an idiot in public, right? Like, I live test these things sometimes and like I'm clicking around my screen and it makes no sense and I'm laughing at myself. But there's a lot of feedback for if you built something, like what's happening, where did I go wrong? Because I'm the everyman fool while I'm testing these products. I think building that community of conversation and co-participation is it's the magic sauce, but that's what we're reaching towards here. And when we have something like Hack the Grid, basically we're reaching out to say, are you a dreamer? Are you someone who wanted to get started? Did you have an idea? Come join our community. Come throw your ideas up. Get them out here. We're going to test them. We're going to play with them. And we're willing to invest in you really as a person, as you kind of can continue dreaming, keep building, keep doing things, right? I mean, I feel like that's kind of the space that we've created. I don't know. I guess I'm speculating because I feel like that's what it feels like to me, because that's the energy I'm putting out. Do you guys feel that? Do you feel that there's that openness, that like willingness to connect with you, or do you feel like that's not there?
Do you mean from like a developer's perspective?
I mean, yeah, sure. I mean, you could phrase it. I guess you could answer that however you want, because I would love to think that Alex is thinking, yeah, I feel like I am connected. But if you're thinking, no, I'm not, or buddy, you're thinking, no, I'm not, then I'm thinking, okay, that's good feedback. That's really interesting feedback.
So, I mean, I would say, I think I do feel that way, but I've also have had a lot of experience in very uncertain, volatile building environments. So I know what that's like, and I know that I can see that people are doing their best given the challenges at stake. But I also know people that are like, oh man, this package was broken, and I was trying to build something, and now like I can't build on LUKSO, like it's too complicated. Like I can't even get this basic thing because whatever. Like if you're gonna find excuses, then you kind of self-select yourself out of this currently volatile stage of growth. I mean, I get Buddy's point regarding appealing to everyone, to builders. I use the term dev loosely. I guess I think of that as just builder at this stage. I think in terms of like engaging people from the team, I've never seen someone talk down to you or kind of like be negative, even if your question is silly. Sometimes I'll ask a question, and then in retrospect, I'll be like, wow, that was a dumb question. I can't believe I didn't understand right away. But haven't seen that from the team, even if I've seen people myself ask frustrating questions, and I'm like, wow, that's an interesting question. The team is super calm, but also the team is not that many people as a whole. So I think just like part of it is patience and time. But part of it is also like, for example, for these grid mini apps, maybe like have a category that where you need like zero solidity, kind of you can just read data, or something with reading data from the LSP4 or some of these standards that are just rich in data, where you could do something by just building a front end that reads this data. You don't necessarily have to, I don't know, build something with a back end. So like easy wins, thinking how you can reduce the barrier further, and making and creating categories to be able to succeed in there that are just highlighting those things, or maybe creating bounties for fixing issues in ERC725.js. Like there's so many issues in that library. What if there was a LIX-based incentive to solve some of those issues? I even saw issues in the GitHub marked as good first issues, right? It's an open source library, so people that are looking to do open source, that's great, but maybe there's like an extra incentive that is needed to engage devs. And in the beginning, you could get a bunch of bounty hunters, but you could also end up getting a lot of people that are curious, and that's the extra motivation that they needed to try. Like maybe if somebody like Buddy, who's looking to learn about LUKSO, looking to learn about the dev side of things, knows that there's an entryway to where they can gain some of these skills, and in the process, like learn more about these standards. That could be like a good stepping stone. You start with some basic issues, just doing open source contributions, learning about the standards, and slowly you built out. I guess the question there that you run up against is the team is only that large, so someone needs to oversee these issues getting solved. Someone needs to prioritize them, etc. And it's just like we'll scale, but I think it won't be like, super quick. It'll be a gradual process.
Yeah.
I think it's worth. I know you were asking around building on mini apps on the grid. I think it's also worth just re-highlighting the power of these standards on LUKSO as a whole, not just mini apps on the grid. Like as we said at the top, we're now able to build everything in a decentralized manner. So people can really think big. Do you know what I mean? Think of like LinkedIn or Upwork or Instagram, or these kind of protocols or Web2 platforms that are fully decentralized, can now be built in a decentralized manner. And there is a growing market of people that care about that. And I don't think we should lose sight of that. That's what makes LUKSO so amazing. That's what makes this an exciting prospect. So the mini apps are a great entry point, but ultimately it's a universal everything website product. There's that should be a kind of stepping stone to really thinking big on wider things. Like I think yeah, it's bigger than just mini apps as well.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And I think to frame this little kind of open-ended piece at the end, because someone might be listening going, what is the point that's being made here as they're wondering aloud? And the wondering aloud can be framed with this idea that this is an incredible open space. It's truly the frontier. When we talk about the frontier, you know, Bankless used to have the tagline, like, we're going west, like, you know, and the frontier implies wild spaces, open spaces, spaces to grow. LUKSO, with this new set of standards, the network, and then the smart contract standards that have cropped up in, I guess, on it. I don't know if that would be the right way to phrase it. Truly provide a frontier space for decentralized builders to go and attack some of these use cases that just aren't possible in other places. You just don't have the critical infrastructure. Like you're saying, Lex, the reactivity provided by LSP1, or in your case, Buddy, the granular permissions provided out of the box by the key manager. This stuff exists here, and it exists here in a coordinated way with other standards, so that you can build these really integrated, composable, and rich experiences for the end user. I guess I'm framing that by saying, I want, if that's our frame, I want a lot of people in the gallery looking at that frame and appreciating the artwork inside. And that artwork is to be painted by every single participant that comes in and wants to explore that space. And for me, indexing heavily on the relational side, you know, communities, villages, they're built upon the relationships between the people. Yes, in code, there's relationships between protocols, and those relationships between protocols is composability, and we gain a lot of power there. But that web of people connected, building, asking questions of each other, sharing resources, like that is that layer zero, right? That foundational layer upon the rest of which it's built, and like, or the rest of the stuff is built. And like, you know, I'm polling you guys about like, hey, do you have an idea on how to do this better? Because you're both pioneers in this ecosystem. You know, you're truly one moment, one protocol at a time. Buddy, you're building moments. Lex, you and team at YearOne, you know, you started with the Grave and then you moved into Universal Assistance Protocol. You're exploring two different areas of the standard suite right now, but like the work you're doing is vital for the people that come after you, because they'll be able to look at what you've done as an example. And yeah, I'm wondering aloud while talking to you guys, like, how to stitch it together. It doesn't require an answer. I think that's the work to be done. That's the exciting work. You can come join us and have fun, or you can look from the outside while we're partying. Right?
Yeah, I mean, like, if I can say something on my end, like,
yeah,
I've built in a few ecosystems prior to this, solo and then exploring. And I mean, I genuinely say this. I think most people know that if you're still building on LUKSO, it's probably because you believe in the standards, that the possibilities, like you say, are endless. And I challenge you, if you want to build something in blockchain and you're like trying to figure out where, what, jump into the LUKSO standards and try to kind of imagine the world that they can create, or the problems that they can solve. They genuinely can solve all the intermediary problems that we face, like with middleman in the Web2 world. And they can solve them in a way that's rich and doesn't sacrifice on the Web2 experience that all these other blockchains sacrifice. So, I mean, I think that personally, I think that we're not going to get too many more believers or devs until we have some wins, as in some projects that LUKSO can highlight and say, okay, we've been telling you about how we can solve all these problems, or here's a platform, here's Moments, or some other platform that has actually reached that, okay, we've broke through, we have proved that this tech can actually solve big problems. I think it's going to be most of the time, people don't hop onto something unless they already see they don't just imagine the vision, they see the product of that vision. So I feel like it's tough to get just mass adoption of builders without having those wins first. But I do see the activity increasing on the dev side, on the, at least the use cases that are being explored are getting much more advanced. So I think we'll eventually like hit that and be able to point to something, and that's when you'll get everyone kind of and their grandma wanting to learn how to build on LUKSO. But right now, it's a moment where you're building a group of core people that are willing to put up with all of this despite the imperfections, because they are curious enough to dig in and see the vision. Like, yeah, I mean, those are just my thoughts. So I feel like maybe once we get more liquidity, it's going to increase the chances of that happening. But until we get those first few apps that really like scream to the world, like, okay, we told you so, it's going to be like this. It's going to be slow, painful. You're going to have, all these imperfections, and we're going to make it anyways.
Like, we are going to make it anyway. And I feel like one of those apps that has really kind of a potential here is, Buddy, the one that you've been working on in Moments, because it has the touch points with the non-technical user, the everyday person that could honestly see a lot of I mean, people use Instagram all the time. What you're ideating is effectively a decentralized version that's better. Well, better in aspects that, again, you can articulate or the user can articulate to themselves, because it prioritizes decentralization. You're muted, buddy. If it didn't happen once a live stream, it
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the idea behind Moments is a good one. I'm not happy at all with where the UX is. Look, but basically, I want to build products that people want to use, right? People that's if we can do that, to your point, Alex, like, we need to build products that people use regularly, and I won't be happy until I regularly create moments, and I'm not there yet. I don't go on and go, oh, look, I've captured a picture and I go and put it on there and I create a moment. It's not good enough yet. It's not quick enough. And so therefore that's I don't expect it to do well until it is there. But the path to get there is very clear. And then you do have a really quite powerful platform where it's going to be super interesting to see what people create. As I say, the power comes in those collections, and collections could be anything. It could be family members, or someone put on Twitter earlier, friends that go traveling together, like maybe once a year. That's now a collection they can keep together that's stored in a decentralized manner. And I think there's something cool to that. Photographers, journalism, there's all sorts. And then moments themselves they're a new format of storage, right? It's not, you don't save a JPEG or a video, you save a moment, and that has got the JPEG and video, but it's also got depth to it. It's got links, it's got data title. It could be anything. It could be a blog article. You could attach anything there, and then you can program things into it as well. Like, it can hold tokens. It can send things and do stuff, and that's really exciting to see how that will come to life. Like I was thinking the other day, I think I watched the movie Inside Out or Inside Out 2, and it had like the perfect visualization of moments. Like there's kind of balls of like memories that they keep in the kind of kid's head, and they are moments. That's capturing a moment, and I think it could really come alive in a VR world, right? Because you can actually see that moment and hold it and make it tangible. And I think that's quite interesting. But that's a long way down the line.
I love that. Inside Out. I like that movie. I haven't seen 2 though. My kids have seen 2. I have not seen 2. The first one got me in the theater. Might have even shed a tear. Not gonna lie.
It was excellent.
So I've had you guys for 75 minutes, and I want to be respectful of your time. So I would just say, you have anything else to add here at the end, and then I'll give a quick closing thought. Yeah, go ahead. I was gonna
No, I was just going to add that anyone who is, again, kind of reiterating that point, anyone who is a follower of LUKSO, is still here, still believes in the vision, pull up your sleeves and build something. Like, it's possible. And that can be a big dream. It could be a big, a small mini app, but there is a community here that all want every app to succeed because it's in our mutual benefit. So don't feel afraid to ask questions. Like anyone, feel free to contact me. I don't mind. I've been the most beginner when it comes to being a developer, so there is no silly questions from that side.
appreciate that.
Yeah, I think.
Sorry, just on that, a plug for what the LUKSO Builders Association are doing, right? So you can actually book in and speak to someone who will give up their time to speak to you about standards, implementations, those kind of things. So there are people to speak to if you can't get it from your AI.
I like that. That's a good plug, and you're absolutely right. There are office hours set up. You can get consultation from marketing strategies to smart contract development and everything in between. And that's set up on the LUKSO Builders Association website. And you can find LUKSO Builders Association on Twitter under LUKSO Builders. So just mentioning that there.
Yeah, I was going to say, Buddy's attitude resonates with me in that, okay, maybe you know you have a good idea, but it's not there when it comes to UX yet. But the path to getting it there is clear to some extent. I think we feel the same way about what we're doing with the Up Assistants. Right now, we're continuously learning from the things we've been kind of launching, the alpha, the beta, the VPs across the various things we've been doing on LUKSO. Yeah, I'm not gonna stop until I see people using the Grave and not complaining, because it's cool, but I hate it when people run up against like these like silly challenges that it's like, well, yeah, I know this is an issue, but I just can't solve it because I need this step and that step and the third, but eventually it'll be there, guys. So yeah, like I see that, and it's the same for a lot of things that could be built on LUKSO. Like there's gonna be these early issues of, well, you know, some of the tech hasn't built out or fleshed out yet because no one's done it before. So you're going to be the first. If you're developing an idea, you won't build the best product right away, but I think that what we build along the way will help others not have to go through these steps. So that's where that snowball effect will hopefully kick in. And yeah, it's painful now, but if you're building here, you're probably not stopping. So don't bet against us.
I love that. Guys, I appreciate you. This is a sticky place. And when we have something like the Hack the Grid hackathon or the Build Up #2 or the LUKSO grants program, what we're looking for is authenticity, people who want to build, right? We don't want the hackathon hopper who's just jumping around looking for prizes. What we want is someone who's willing to actually explore what's possible. And that authenticity, I prize this discussion, because like it's raw and it's your honest feedback and you're giving us exactly what you think. And that's important, because I think real relationships are built when people feel like they can be honest with one another. Feedback should be two ways, right? Feedback should go out and in from any organization, and it should be a conversation. And you guys, I appreciate you coming on as to active builders, community members in the space. You interact with people, you share your work, you share your tireless hours spent building these things, and then you have the humility to accept the feedback from the active community that's willing to have a conversation with you. I mean, that's how real things are done. So coming on here to a live stream, yeah, it's hosted by the the LUKSO account, but it doesn't have to always be. It's not this isn't marketing. This isn't just like controlling the talk. This is having an honest conversation with two people who are involved, and two people turns into four, and four turns into 16, and we grow exponentially. And that's the ultimate goal here. So super thankful that you were willing to come on and chat, and we'll continue this ongoing conversation. And
Yeah, happy to.
For sure, we'll bring live streams back in that informal, testing things out in the real raw, making sure that people get visibility on the things they're building, and we get that good feedback from the general community.
And thanks for your countless hours, Craig, because you've been also around since before I was around, and before people that started building many of the people that started building were around. And I think kind of like seeing how you tie in early LUKSO with where things are currently at, and getting that continuity from things you share, your thoughts, has also been like really helpful and motivating. So yeah, thank you, sir, for bringing us all together.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, I second that.
Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, I came in here because I really did embrace this idea of the universal profile. And interestingly enough, I guess I didn't think the long game through and think about what it really would take to build out the products needed to unlock the power of that thing. But I've bought into the vision and never wavered from that conviction. Sometimes I always go back to Build Up #2. Alex Van de Sande actually said, sometimes you can be right too early, and that's a form of being wrong. And I think about that frequently, because we have seen some growing pains here, just because I think we were right a little bit too early. But I do feel right now in this moment in time that we are ahead of the narrative that is emerging, and that we are well positioned to take advantage of all of the opportunity that comes with it, because we truly do have the foundation upon which we can build the new Web3. And honestly, where a lot of financial engineering has happened in DeFi, I think here there's a lot of cultural engineering that can happen. This idea of collective action around some interesting ideas that actually mean something to the everyday user. So on that note, gentlemen, thank you so much. We'll stay connected. If you've stuck with us this long, check out Universal Assistance Protocol or The Grave, the team at YearOne, and make sure you check out Forever Moments. Make a moment, participate, right? Participation is key in everything that we do. Lex, buddy, thanks so much, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers.
See you later.